Have you ever been on a job site only to be discouraged by the fact that hundreds of people have already applied to the position you want? Scouring through listings on job sites feel like trying to keep up with a treadmill on the highest level. I've been through this exact situation when finding a job, and it motivated me to understand why it's like this and why it hasn't been changed. In this video, I'll explain why job hunting feels straight up impossible right now. Before we move on, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot and only takes a second. The first misconception is that job sites are made for job seekers. They're made for hiring managers and recruiters. Throughout this video, I'll refer to them as customers. These are the people that these sites actually make money from, and this is why as job seekers, these sites are free. Job applicants are just a number they can showcase to HR teams to say that, hey, we have a huge pool of candidates you can pick from. Their customers benefit from the problems we end up suffering from. The first problem is the most discouraging: applicant saturation. For customers, this is their biggest plus. More applicants leads to a higher probability of getting a top talent hire. Top talent hires are considered the best performers in an industry. Every company wants these, or at least pretends they do. Out of the hundreds of people that apply to a job, there are going to be people who don't fit the criteria. For example, they live in a separate country and expect to be sponsored for a working visa. But this doesn't change the fact that your chances get worse. Sometimes, hiring managers use application saturation to help them make money. Let me explain further. The goal of many organizations is to make as much money as they can. They usually do this by upselling to existing customers or trying to get new ones. When they're trying to get new ones, they want to make themselves look better than their competitors, or just better than they were. One of the best ways to do that is to pretend they're growing. This shows social proof to prospects that other people like them are also opting to use said company. This leads them to making ghost jobs. These are job listings that the company never intends to fill, but it helps achieve what I've mentioned above. According to an online survey, 40% of companies have posted a fake job listing this year. The top reasons being to alleviate employee workload concerns and suggest company growth. The worst part is that they found that 7 in 10 hiring managers believed that this was morally acceptable. Why? Because it led to boosted revenue, morale, and productivity. I personally don't agree with this, but it explains the business reason behind it. There's not a secret recipe that can detect all ghost jobs with 100% accuracy, but a rule of thumb is that if the listing on a job site is more than 20 days old, it's probably just a ghost job. So it's best to find job listings that are less than 2 weeks old. So now you've found real job listings, let's start looking into the problems with them. The first problem actually originates down to how jobs are approved and recruited. Let's say that you're a manager and your team needs more staff. Money doesn't grow on trees, and these managers have to justify spending 5 to 6 figures of company money. This is a big investment, and when people expect 6-figure salaries just to pay rent, this leads to companies wanting less resources to do more work. You see, hiring managers usually report to someone higher than them, an executive or director, who approves the role and its job description. New staff are a big expense for company budgets, so the big boss is probably going to want them to do more things. This leads to more responsibilities, which leads to more required experience and qualifications. Combine this with the fact that wrongfully labeling jobs to encourage lower salary expectations is the norm. This leads to an entry-level job which requires 2 to 5 years experience, when it should really be labeled as a senior or managerial level hire. Only a few people end up meeting the requirements, but if they're getting hundreds of applicants, how do they sort through each person to find who they're looking for? That brings me to something called an applicant tracking system. These systems are used by hiring managers and recruiters to automatically sort out the best candidates based on their resumes. This is why people like to lie or tailor their resume, so they get a better chance of being chosen by the ATS. Now, the ATS will base their judgments on the job description designed by the hiring manager. This is where it gets silly. The hiring manager may only need someone in a junior role to lend a hand on projects, but the job description is basically asking the ATS to find people who are overqualified. If you get top talent doing the job of an entry-level person, it's not a bad thing short term. However, anyone that good would eventually leave for a better offer with more value. which means they have to start the hiring process over again. This pattern keeps repeating, and people are forced to either tailor their resume to get shortlisted or find another way to get a job. So with all this in mind, are there any solutions? Well, I have a new video planned next week to address this in detail, but to summarize, inspect a job listing, find the hiring company's website, email and call them directly to stand out. This shows initiative, which goes a long way in private sector jobs. However, it's possible their response tells you to send a resume through Seek, which defeats the purpose. Okay, that's it for the video. Stay tuned for next week's video on how to get a job despite these problems. Like, subscribe, and hope you had a good time.